happy to be here, to be able to share some thoughts of Dhamma with you on this auspicious day where we celebrate the three significant great events of the Buddha's life: the birth, enlightenment, and also the passing away into Parinirvana. So happy Buddha Purnima Vesak Day to all of you. So this is the day. Also we want to express our gratitude to His Holiness Mahatma Ambedkar Ji, who inspired millions of people in the whole world towards the sublime teachings of the Buddha. So we remember him with a great sense of gratitude. So I thought to talk about the Buddha and also the Bodhisattva path. Usually we attribute Bodhisattva qualities to Ambedkar Ji, right? So then let us think about the Buddha first. Who the Buddha is. The appearance of the Buddha on earth is extremely rare. It is once in uncountable eons. Sukho Buddhanam Upado. The appearance of the Buddha on earth is extremely rare. One time the Buddha mentioned the rarity of the Buddha in one of the suttas that is called Chiggala Sutta. This particular sutta you find in the Samyutta Nikaya. There Buddha gave us a kind of analogy so we can understand how rare the birth of the Buddha is. Suppose if someone were to throw a piece of wood into the sea, suppose this wood is like 2 feet long wood and it has 1 inch diameter hole in it. Suppose this piece of wood is just floating here and there in the sea, and this is the simile that Buddha gives. Okay. Suppose there is a blind turtle living in the same sea who would come to the surface once every 100 years, and the Buddha is asking, what is the probability that the blind turtle who lives in the sea, who would come to the surface once every 100 years, would insert its neck through that hole, that 1 inch diameter hole in that wood? What is the probability of meeting that two things together? It is almost impossible, right? So the Buddha said that it is more rare, the appearance of the Buddha on earth. That could even happen. That incident can happen, but the birth of the Buddha is even rarer. Lately, when I was listening to a astrophysicist, he mentioned something very interesting. He said that the energy created in the middle of the sun, it takes 10 to 100 millions of years to come to the surface of the sun. Upon reaching there, it takes some 8 minutes and some seconds to reach us, right? The light, solar light. But when we receive a solar beam, solar light, we hardly appreciate it. We don't know the long journey behind this sunlight that we receive every day. So the energy created, like suppose 100 millions of years ago. But if we know this journey, then we want to appreciate, acknowledge it, right? Every time we receive one single sunbeam, we want to appreciate it, because it's been traveling long journey to reach us. The light of the Buddha, we cannot measure that length of time even in terms of billions or trillions years. Such a long time, it takes such a long time for someone to become the Buddha, for the Bodhisattva to become the Buddha. But once we have the Buddha time, we take it for granted, because for us it's not that rare. Everywhere we go, we see at least the statue of the Buddha. We see and we hear the words of the Buddha. So we take it for granted. But actually, even the very word Buddha is so rare. Even right now in the world, don't take it for granted. Which is more popular? The word Buddha or the Coca-Cola? Of 8 billion people, almost everyone knows the word Coca-Cola. But how many few people know the word Buddha? Of 8 billion people, do you think that at least 2 billion people know the word Buddha? I don't think so. Sometimes, maybe let's say, okay, 2 billion people know the word called the Buddha. Of those 2 billion people, how many of them know the word Dhamma? How many of them know the word Sangha? Even how many of them know the word Chaturarya Satya, Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, karma and rebirth and all this? Very few people. See how fortunate we have been to be able to have this opportunity. We need to appreciate it. How many times it takes for the Bodhisattva to become the Buddha? In our Buddhist literature, it is mentioned that 4 incalculable asankha years and another 100,000 years it takes for Bodhisattva to become the Buddha. Not years, actually eons. Buddha would very frequently use this time unit called eon. But nobody knew how long one eon is. So the monks were very curious to know how long one eon is. A group of monks came to the Buddha and asked, Venerable Sir, we see you referring to this time unit called eon, kappa, but we are curious to know how long, how this kappa, how long this one kappa is. And Buddha said that, well, it's hard for us to calculate the time in terms of years to see how one how many years that one kalpa takes. But if you are interested in, I can give you a simile. This is what the Buddha said. Suppose there is a solid rock, 16 mile long, 16 mile high, 16 mile cubic, one solid rock. Suppose there is a person who would come with a very soft piece of cloth once every 100 years. Suppose that person is going to wipe that rock with this very soft piece of cloth. How long will it take for him to erase the entire rock? He comes once every 100 years. How long will it take for him to completely tear off that entire rock? That is, even the length of one kappa is even longer. But think about the period the Bodhisattva practiced paramis. Not one kalpa, not one that rock time, not even 10 times of that, not even 100 times. If you keep counting, passing millions, billions, trillions, quadrillion and all that, you get the number called asankheya. If you were to write this in number, in figures, that is 1 followed by 140 zeros. 1 followed by 140 zeros. And 4 times of such, and another 100,000 years. That is the time our Bodhisattva practice paramis in order to become the Buddha. See how rare it is. What rare opportunity we all got. Now, it's our duty to see the Buddha, to understand who the Buddha is, and to benefit from this Dhamma. You know, you can study about the Buddha in many ways. As a historical figure, you can study and read biographies and archaeological evidences, histories and all that. And as a human being, you can study about the Buddha from an anthropological perspective. And you can study about the Buddha from so many different perspectives. But what is the ultimate perspective from which we can study the Buddha? That is the perspective of Dhamma. This is what the Buddha said. Yo Dhammam Passati, Somam Passati. The person who sees the Dhamma sees me, sees the Buddha. How we can see the Dhamma? What is Dhamma is all about? Dhamma, Buddha attained enlightenment at the age of 35, and he lived as a Buddha for another 45 years. Whatever been preached during that 45 long period, we call Dhamma. Towards the end of the Buddha's Dhamma mission, Buddha wanted to conclude, sort of summarize what he had been giving so far. He said, monks, I have been giving this Dhamma for 45-year long period to all walks of lives, to different groups, to different people, in so many different ways. But in the end, all I have spoken is nothing but 4 things. 4 noble truths. The truth of suffering, truth of the origin of suffering, truth of the cessation of suffering, truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. This is the 4 noble truths. Just as the footprint of an elephant can contain the footprint of any other animal in the jungle, so is the doctrine of 4 noble truths can contain any teaching given So, in a way, it's very easier for us because all we have to do is nothing but to understand these Four Noble Truths. By understanding the Four Noble Truths, you understand the entire teaching of the Buddha. Also, we have to admit that if we do not know what the Four Noble Truth is, we do not know anything what the Buddha taught. Isn't it? So it is very essential that we understand these Four Noble Truths. The truth of suffering is so profound. It is not the suffering that we usually talk about. There is this level of suffering that we need to understand in our life. Very subtle level of suffering. The dukkha, kāyika dukkhañca, cetasika dukkhañca tapetva avasesa, na dukkha, dukkha satcha na dukkha. Dukkha satcha, the truth of suffering, is something devoid of both mental and physical pain. There is that level of, subtle level of suffering that we need to comprehend. This is the suffering Buddha talks about in terms of five aggregates. Five aggregates of clinging. What is this five aggregate? Five components of our experience. At the enlightenment, Buddha saw the mystery of this experience. As we experience the world, now, for instance, we experience the world through six senses, right? Through eyes, through ears, through nose, through body, through tongue, and through the mind. The sixfold experience. But as we experience this world through our six senses, are we getting the right picture, or else the distorted picture? The Buddha realized, Buddha understood, discovered that we get a wrong, distorted picture about the reality. Why is it? Because of our lack of understanding into conditionality. We do not know Paticcasamuppada. We do not know the causality, cause and effect, dependent origination. That's where we are stuck. But if we can understand, Buddha helps us understand the real mechanism behind our experience. This is where Buddha talks about the matter, sensation, perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness. There are these five things behind our experience. But ordinarily, generally we feel like we are cognizing, we are experiencing just the matter. But the matter cannot be cognized directly. For us to cognize it, for us to know about it, for us to be conscious of matter, there has to be other five things. What are these five things? Matter, sensation, perception, volitional formations, and consciousness. Together, we experience the world. This is called dependent arising, dependent origination. As we understand the dependent origination, we know that everything has dependent arising only. Nothing has independent existence or independent survival on their own. The good thing about this is that once we understand the conditionality of everything, we understand the fact that it is so unwise for us to hold on to things permanently, because things are impermanent. they are there as long as the conditions exist. With the breakup of any of those conditions, things cease to exist. This is what the reality Buddha discovered at the enlightenment. So for him to realize this reality, it took such a long time. But out of compassion for the world, Buddha was able to give us that teaching, that sublime teaching, so we can understand that reality as the Buddha did. So, anyone who is wishing to be a Buddha, he must have that great compassion for the whole world, like Ambedkar. Out of compassion for the whole world, they practice paramis, they practice all virtues, they practice all perfections to help the entire world. Of the Buddha's life, there are two virtues. They are like the two wings of the enlightenment, Karuna and Panya. Panya and Karuna. Throughout the Buddha's life, Bodhisattva's life, that Karuna and Panya was there. Otherwise, Buddha could have attained enlightenment long time before, but he wanted to postpone his personal enlightenment for the sake of the enlightenment and liberation of all sentient beings. So this is what we celebrate today, that great compassion and that great wisdom. As we celebrate the Buddha, we need to determine to ourselves firmly that we need to see the real Buddha through the Dhamma. We need to understand who the Buddha is, and also we need to inspire our generations so that they can also benefit from this sublime Dhamma. You have been so fortunate to be Buddha's relatives. You are from the Buddha's land, the land of the Buddha. You have that great pride as relatives of the Buddha. We also have the great pride as a nation, as Sri Lankans, who preserve that teachings in its pristine purity for more than 2,300 years continuously. So we get together today to celebrate that life and the legacy and also the sublime teaching of the Buddha. So we wish you that may you be able to encounter with wonderful great Kalyana Mittas in this very life who can teach you, guide you towards the attainment, towards the understanding of Four Noble Truths. May you be surrounded by, guided by great Kalyana Mittas who can uplift your life to the understanding of the Four Noble Truths and dependent origination. So you can see the Buddha through the Dhamma. So ultimately I wish you that may all of us be able to attain the enlightenment that the Buddha experienced at the attainment of enlightenment, and may all of us be able to put an end to all samsaric suffering that we have been experiencing throughout this samsara. May we be able to attain nirvana in this very life. Happy Vesak to all of you. Also, if you have any questions, I'm delighted to